Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a podcast between myself and my brother to another mother, Sam Gavin. I hope not literally, because my mother is an angel, and that would really be heartbreaking for me if it was brother to another mother. But anyway, I hear your dad's the devil, so I guess it evens out.
Oh, damn it.
How are you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm very good, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me back on. It's great to be back. How are you?
Really good, really good. Well, we're here to talk about Spider-Man in the MCU as just like a rough podcast. Sam being the Spider-Man mega fan and me being hopefully a mega fan in the future, depending if we get some actual good movies.
If it all pans out well.
That's right, yeah, if it does. Now, Sam, what was your first reaction when you heard about this?
Well, my first reaction was I woke up to half a dozen messages and alerts from viewers saying, look what happened, it finally happened, Sam, praise the Lord. And I was literally, I'd opened my eyes to my phone going off. And so at first I was like, and I had to get up and go to uni. So I tried as quickly as I could to make sure that this was real, because Lord knows in the past year or so there have just been countless rumors, and
so many.
It's gotten very tedious. But
and with the Sony hack too,
with the Sony hack, people on the Sony production saying Spider-Man 2, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was someone wanted to burn it, and it like there were a lot of rumors going around that at this point I didn't quite get excited too quickly. But the second I saw that Marvel had posted it on the official website, I thought, wow, this is really weird. I wish I didn't have to go to uni so I could dwell in this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously I went to a lecture, and then I came back, and it's no one's come out and said just joking. So it really looks like this is happening.
So is it something you were hoping for, or is it something you were just kind of like, if it happens, so be it, but let's see the movie?
I mean, in an ideal world, I would prefer for Sony to just be gone. But, business-wise, financially speaking, that was very unlikely.
Yeah.
But I reckon a few things have provoked this. You know, Sony's had a really bad year with, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They spent a lot of money on that, particularly on promotion, and they did not make as much as they would like to have back. And not to mention the critical response just was not flying for them.
The critical and the fans and the financial. Yeah. I think somebody said it was like the lowest of all of the movies. I don't know whether they mean just opening or whatever, but
I think it was the lowest weekend opening or something like that. But the Spider-Man films in terms of gross have definitely gone down since 2002, which makes sense, I guess. It's just it's really surreal this has finally happened, but
you don't sound that excited about it.
Do I not?
Because on the internet, people were like, literally, there were like people going like, look out the window, and I bet the sun's shining a bit brighter because Spider-Man's. I'm like, I was saying in the comments to some of my subscribers, I was be like, I can kind of relate, because like if they announced and said that Ben Affleck was fired, that's how I'd feel. I'd have that same kind of just sheer joy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely excited about it. I'm not quite... I'm a very skeptical kind of person. So, particularly with Spider-Man over the past few years, Amazing Spider-Man 2 really upset me and kind of made me just lean a little further away from getting too close to the materials. Because... I mean, that's a sad thing, and it doesn't mean that I like Spider-Man any less, but it just means I'm very careful as to not get too excited about stuff. Like, I'm really trying hard not to get overly hyped over Star Wars Episode 7. So, but I'm definitely excited. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all pans out. I mean, originally I kind of wanted... I actually thought it would have been really cool if Marvel announced a Netflix series. Because that would have been... With a third Spider-Man reboot, I think they desperately need something different and something to, turn to the... Not just us, but the mainstream public and say, you think you've seen Spider-Man? Not quite like this. And I think a Netflix series, first of all, would have made the other Netflix shows get taken more legitimately. You know, if people are seeing Spider-Man on Netflix shows, they're going, wow, maybe this is something to actually pay attention to.
Yeah, I suppose that'd be a good way to sort of introduce him in a different aspect. But
yeah,
I think the thing is, because if they eventually want to bring him into the Marvel Universe, what I was wondering about is, because they didn't have him in the Marvel Universe so long, it seems like they took many aspects of Spider-Man's personality and distributed them amongst the other characters. Like,
yes.
Iron Man's got his sort of wisecracking nature. Hulk kind of has the everyman quality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Iron Man was
Captain America doesn't fit in all the time. So if they were to bring him in now, it really makes me wonder as to how they would change his character, because otherwise people will go, oh, they're just doing a diet Iron Man or something.
Yeah, well, of course, Tony Stark was originally quite a moody kind of guy. He still had a sense of humor, but he was extremely cynical before, they did the first Iron Man movie. And most people's, idea of what Iron Man is and the kind of character he should be is basically Robert Downey Jr.'s performance. That's influenced everything to do with Iron Man. And it's interesting when you think about, the fact that they're going to be bringing in Spider-Man, the kind of the heart that some people think Marvel needs. I definitely think they've already got it, but it's never going to hurt from having Spider-Man in it.
That's kind of why it surprised me as well, because it's like Marvel doesn't really need him. Like, they're always going to make a truckload of money even if he's not there.
Yes.
But someone was saying, like, I guess they were just doing this because they want to give the fans what they want, because they consistently do that. Like Hulkbuster suit, we've been wanting that for ages, and now they've given it. But
this move was mainly done. I mean, for me, I don't really have a particular strong feeling towards Spider-Man being in the Avengers, because quite frankly, I would need to see them on screen together for me to believe that Spider-Man can really hold his own out of all of that lot. But I mean, then again, he does in the comics, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I think because of the bad year Sony has had, and all the conversations with Marvel, this just feels like the right direction to go in. And I mean, the reason I'm still a little skeptical is because Sony still has final creative control, and that worries me, because that was the big reason the Amazing series just wasn't panning out. I mean, Lord knows, I'm sure Mark Webb and Garfield and company, they all did the best they could. I personally think the first film isn't so... The first film...
It was alright.
First film's okay, and...
Yeah, it's not horrible. It's not a train wreck like the second one.
Yeah, it's not like an abysmal, oh god, how could they do this? You can still tell that they were trying to do, their own thing. I mean, the scene, the crane sequence, I love. I think that's really well done. It's got a great score. I think Andrew Garfield's really trying as hard as he can with the script.
Yeah,
and
I really liked Andrew Garfield. I thought it was good. I don't know if he's comic accurate, but but I really liked his performance.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, because I really like Tobey Maguire, and many could argue he's not comic book accurate. And, like you said, because I watched your video recently about, what does it all mean with Spider-Man joining Marvel, a lot of people have their own ideas as to what Spider-Man should be like. And really, that's all down to interpretation at the end of the day. But, I mean, I just feel like the problem with the first Amazing Spider-Man was just Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker came off as a little inconsistent. But overall, you can tell that had Sony not been tinkering with the final cut, we probably would have ended up with a very possibly a good movie. I think that because like you said, it was their sticking their nose in that ruined it, and they still technically have the power to do that with Marvel. But I'm actually not too worried though, because I think they will to a certain extent, but I don't think they'll do it to the point of breaking movies like they have in the past, because if they do take it to that extent and really try to push it, Marvel can always just call their bluff and say, well, you know what, we're not going to do it then. Because they've got a whole universe, so they can always, if it ever got that bad, Marvel could just say that and say, you know what, if that's the way you want to do it, we're just not going to make the movie. Yeah.
So that's why I'm not too worried about Sony. I think
and Kevin Feige's very much, very much, closely involved. He's producing it, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's just the fact that all the stuff that Sony has done recently has just made me a little towards it. But the Marvel team it's full of talented filmmakers, talented writers, and they all take chances. This is something that Spider-Man desperately needs. He needs something unique and inspired to, actually stop seeming like a copy of the same films he's done over and over again and bring us something new.
Well, let's talk about that. Assuming we're getting Peter Parker, which is most likely for the next one.
Yeah.
Which Peter Parker would you like? Would you like teenage Peter Parker? Would you like young adult Peter Parker? Or he was a professor for a storyline, wasn't he?
Yes, he was
which
a professor
version would
at
you
one
prefer?
Point. I quite liked the idea of Spider-Man being an adult because, again, it's something different that we haven't quite seen. I still think you can have him be a relatable protagonist as an adult. He just won't be a teenager anymore. I think Marvel have maybe missed a trick there because we already know that he's going back to high school, and I think some people are jumping. I think
that's a mistake too, because it's like a lot of people saying they want to see him in high school and see him in high school for a long time. So they're like, I'll cast a 15-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that would work because, like, you cast a 15-year-old, between the first movie and the second movie, they take like 3 years, then he's 18. So you can only really get one movie with him in high school before he starts looking too old to be there.
Yeah,
so
and that's what
like, it works in the comics because you can keep him the same age for 10 years if you want. But that's why I was hoping that they'd just skip over and make him like an adult. And maybe not the photography. Like, I like the idea of a professor because I was like, then he could fit in with the science bros.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff like that.
Him being a professor always made sense to me because, that's the kind of, you can imagine Peter Parker winding up in that sort of profession. Yeah. And like you were saying about you can only make him a teenager for one movie, that's basically what they did. They did that with Tobey. He was in high school and he graduated in the first movie. Andrew's graduated by the beginning of the second movie, so one thing I like, I mean, there's pros and cons as to going in the older direction or the younger direction. I think if you're going to go older, you've got more of an opportunity to do something unique, but it's also kind of bugged me that, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, that Hollywood seems to cast actors that are much older than we're told the characters are in the movies. And I think you're missing a really big trick with, having a teenage Peter Parker if he doesn't look like a teenager. And I don't think Andrew Garfield looked like a teenager, and as much as I like him, I don't think Tobey looked like a teenager. I just think if you're gonna go down this road, cast someone who looks like a teenager.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about casting.
I just completely tipped over my mic. I do apologise if that was quite something.
I heard a weird noise. But let's talk about casting. I mentioned to you before we started this, I had some casting names for young Peter Parker, like teenage Peter Parker, young adult Peter Parker, and for Miles Morales.
Right. And I've got a mix as well.
Yeah. Do you want to start with one?
Sure. I mean, for the older one, and we know it's not going to happen anymore, but just for fun, and I don't want to completely hang up on Tobey Maguire constantly, but I reckon if you did that, first of all, Tobey's actually really good age, 39. He's not overly old, he's not overly young. He's sort of that perfect age that you would want to see an older Spider-Man in. Yeah. It would instantly connect the original Spider-Man trilogy to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which would make sense. They're quite similar in tone, and it would also just please a lot of fans. So that's one way that I reckon they could have gone.
Do you reckon that if they did offer that to Tobey Maguire, do you reckon he'd still be willing to do it though?
I don't know.
I don't know. I reckon he might.
I reckon he might, and I mean, he was willing to do Spider-Man 4 even after Spider-Man 3. So
that's true. That is true. And you know what? That, like you said, that would, like, you could fit the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies into the MCU, because the question with the MCU is whenever there's a disaster, everyone's like, where are the other Avengers? The amount of stuff that happens in Thor and all that. but it's enough for the other Avengers not to jump in. Nothing that happened in any of the Sam Raimi movies were big enough that you could have said that the Avengers should have showed up. You know, it was all sort of enough that Spider-Man could handle. So yeah, I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, and
that'd be
of course
good,
most of the stuff in the Raimi trilogy, you know, the kind of the worldwide, it wasn't even worldwide, but the big disasters, they were incredibly personal to Spider-Man, so it would make sense why they wouldn't show up, you know.
That would be good too. Like if you had, imagine that Tobey Maguire in the new movies, you'd really feel like you had followed Spider-Man through his life, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you've won me over. I really love that idea.
And it would also just sort of make a connective tissue, because at the moment, if I think about Spider-Man on film, they've just cancelled a series. They only got to 2, and that's kind of unheard of nowadays, especially with superhero movies. It's really obvious that Sony made a bad call, and they've really kind of made a mess of things at that point. And I just think this would repair a lot of the damage, and we could just think of the amazing series of The Bad Dream.
That's right. Well, my pick for Spider-Man as being like an adult Spider-Man was Eggsy from Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Oh, good shout. Good shout.
You know that guy. I can't remember his name because he's like totally
Taron
new.
Egerton.
Taron Egerton, that's it, yeah. But I would love to see him as Spider-Man. He was almost like in X-Men Apocalypse. He was going to be cast as a young Cyclops, but Bryan Singer didn't want him. That was a mistake. But I'd like him because he could bring sort of like a more tough guy edge to Spider-Man that we haven't seen before. Because, you know, he's kind of scrappy, that dude. You saw it in Kingsman. But at the same time, he still does look kind of like Peter Parker.
So you'd want to cast him as an older Peter Parker?
Yeah, I don't want to team Peter Parker. Because I feel like we've already seen that, and you can only really do one movie with it, so it's a waste of time. But they are going to do it anyway, I guess. So.
They are, yeah. I mean, I know they're going to do it, so that's why my list consists of mainly young actors. But I like the shout out for Taron Egerton. I can't quite decide if he would be good for a. I think he's kind of in that middle range. He doesn't look young enough for me, but he also doesn't look old enough for me. But he's a great actor, so I wouldn't exactly be disappointed if they did go with that.
Was he in anything over there in England before that movie?
I've heard he was on.
Like on TV shows or something?
It was either like a BBC television drama or a soap opera, but Kingsman is his first feature-length debut, and what a great actor. So I reckon
so
Kingsman.
Well, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean Kingsman will undoubtedly get him on Hollywood's radar. He's really good, and he's got such charisma. And that's actually you've started making me like him as Spider-Man, because he could do it.
Well, who are some of your young Peter Parkers? The one I had was actually, again, don't know the actor's name, but he was the kid who played the young kid in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That little kid who sort of, he was about 12 and he made friends with the orangutan.
I remember the moment. Let me try, hang on. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes cast. Cody Smith McPhee.
There you
apparently.
go. The reason I pick him is because I think he'd be good for, like, just based off what he did in that movie, he'd be good as the kind of Spider-Man where when he's Peter Parker, he's really shy. He's really shy, he's really quiet. But then when he puts the suit on, he's like, whoa, and he comes to life.
He looks like Peter Parker.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I can barely remember his performance in Dawn, but he looks like Peter Parker.
Yeah. Well, who did you have for like the teenage Peter Parker?
I had Asa Butterfield, who was Hugo and Ender in Ender's Game. And I haven't seen Ender's Game, but he looks incredibly ticked off in the trailers. But he's really good in Hugo. And he is 17. I reckon he's the perfect age if they want to do a young Peter Parker, you know. Again, like you said, they can probably only do it for one movie, but let's still make it unique. And you know, I just don't think they've gone young enough. So I reckon I'd like to see him expand his range. I haven't quite seen him play someone who is like Peter Parker, but I know the guy can act, and I reckon he just in terms of age, I think he looks perfect. Yeah.
I'm looking at some pictures of him now. Looks very young though. I'm guessing he's grown a couple of years since then.
Yeah, I mean, that's the awkward sort of thing about teenage boys is they look really young sometimes, and I can't imagine Peter Parker looking like an old teenager. You know.
You got any other young ones?
I've got who else? I got Thomas Brodie-Sangster, who I think most people know him from Game of Thrones. I don't watch it, but he was also in Maze Runner. Yeah, he was in a CBBC series adaptation of Featherboy, and he's appeared in Doctor Who. He's actually got around quite a bit, but I think in terms of...
He was in Love Actually. He was Liam Neeson's son.
He is. Yes, you're right. I forgot about that.
I saw him mentioned on a different list. Apparently, he's like 24, but he looks like he's 14.
He does, yeah, bless him. He's got the look down for a younger Peter Parker, and he's also a very good actor. He's probably the best part of Maze Runner. He brought the most charisma to his role, and he was probably the most likable. I just think he'd be very good. Not too much to add to it, really. What about you?
Yeah, I'd be good with that. I'd be good with him. Yeah, he's definitely got the acting skills, because I've seen him in a few things too.
Yeah, I mean, a simple hair dye and he'd look the role perfectly.
How do you feel about Miles Morales?
Miles Morales, I can safely say I've not read one comic with Miles Morales, and that's not because I have any problem with him. You know, plenty of people have taken up the mantle of other superheroes. But, you know, I was actually quite a big fan of Ultimate Spider-Man, and I have been reading it since I was 12. I've never finished it. It's...
I know very little about him, but I do not want them to do that, because it's like, while I love the idea of like a new kind of Spider-Man and a fresh take and all that, looking from the perspective of like, you know, the regular audience who doesn't understand Spider-Man...
Yeah,
taking Spider-Man from Sony universe into Marvel universe is going to be confusing enough for them. If you change it to a whole new character and everyone's like, why is Spider-Man a black guy now? Or a black kid now? And why is he called Miles Morales and not Peter Parker? I think that'd be way too much confusion. But I would like to see Miles Morales down the track, though. Yeah,
sure. I mean, I can see him getting maybe a Netflix series again, or maybe appearing as a minor character somewhere. You know, there's easy ways to incorporate him into the universe, but, you know, characters that take up the mantles don't usually get movies. You know, Miles Morales, you turn to someone on the street and you say Peter Parker, they'll go Spider-Man. You say to someone Miles Morales, they go, who the hell is that? You know,
that's right. Yeah.
And, you know, I haven't read Morales, but he might be very good. He might be the best character ever, but fact of the matter is he's not Peter Parker, and I really highly doubt that they would take that kind of gamble on such an unknown to the mainstream public kind of character.
Yeah, but dude, that is a great idea though, to like do him as like a Netflix, so he could like team up with like Daredevil.
Have him be part of the Defenders.
Yeah, and you could still refer like he saw the antics of Peter Parker in the movies, and that's what inspired him, because that goes with this whole.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of creative things they could do with it, because, you know, they don't have to do it to a T. I mean, the reason Miles Morales became Spider-Man in the Ultimate series, and I don't know if anyone's reading the Ultimate series with Peter Parker at the moment, spoilers for the next 3 or so seconds, Peter Parker dies, and Miles Morales then takes up the mantle. You know, maybe he's a great character, but I don't really see what the big appeal is, you know.
You know what it'll be like? It's like, because in the comics, when Batman was paralyzed by Bane, Azazel took on the Batman mantle for a while. Putting Miles Morales would be like if, you know, when they're rebooting Batman, but they use this Azazel character, and everyone like, who is Azazel? That is not Batman.
And of course, people would be waiting for Batman to show up and be like, give me that suit.
Yeah, no, you got to start with Peter Parker and then go to Miles Morales.
If people are recommending him because of the simple fact that he's black, I reckon it would speak volumes if you had a black superhero who wasn't taking up the mantle of someone else, if he was his own character. And that's why I reckon, you know, Black Panther will be really good, because he's not any other character, he's his own character, and you will think of that guy as Black Panther, only him, you know. So
yeah, and it's like, I think, because like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very diverse, very diverse. Definitely. It's like, well, I won't go through naming them all, but we got Black Panther, we got Falcon, we got Rhodey, we got Nick Fury, we got like we got one chick, we're gonna have more chicks, so it's very diverse. Except for the Mandarin. Yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
So the deal is, Spider-Man, he gets his solo movie 2017, and he has to appear in a Marvel movie in 2016, and there's only really 3 movies it could be: Civil War, Doctor Strange, or Guardians of the Galaxy. Safe to rule out Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think Spider-Man's going to be in that. Doctor Strange, maybe, but why would you? You know?
Yeah, I mean, he's had encounters with Doctor Strange in the past, and it's never quite... It's really just been for a, hey, look, it's these 2 characters. They don't really belong in the same universe, logically.
Yeah, I mean, like... Because if Spider-Man's supposed to be street level, and Doctor Strange is dealing with magic and ghosts and parallel dimensions or whatever he deals with, yeah, those 2 words don't really fit together too much.
Yeah, you don't really bump into Spider-Man in Dimension X, you know?
Yeah. Dimension X.
But I mean, that's another thing, because again, you know, I think they're kind of rushing it with the whole 2017 release date, and I think it's pretty obvious that the reason that's happened is because the deal involved Sony going, okay, well, we need this movie out as soon as possible. I would like them to take their time a little bit with it, because I think, if anything, this process just needs time, because that's part of the problem. They've constantly been rushing it, and they've constantly been doing all this, but I'm trying to remain really yeah! Well, but at the same time, God.
You'll probably be happy to know that according to the Sony hacks, Marvel actually, like, while they were still negotiating, Marvel actually already had prepared how they were going to incorporate him into Civil War and what they were going to do with him, just in case the deal went ahead.
Well, that would make sense.
And that sounds like a Marvel kind of thing to do. Yeah, totally. So hopefully it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
So hopefully it should be okay, because they've probably been ready for this to go for a long time now, just waiting for the green light. But like in Civil War, would you rather him be just like cameo at like end credit scene, or would you like him to actually be part of the story?
The problem with having him in Civil War would mean that you would have to address where the hell he's been this whole time. And like we were saying earlier, you can just say, oh, he's been around and we just didn't mention it, but I don't know, Spider-Man, you know, he's quite big.
Yeah.
And especially if the Avengers took place in New York, there's got to be something there, and I just think... I mean, Civil War, I would like to think that they're not going to do it exactly to the T. You know, one of the things I love about Marvel is that they do new creative stories and they adapt the stories. They don't just completely retell them. And I reckon they'll probably do something unexpected with Spider-Man, but I also know that they will want to please fans as best as they can. So I reckon they will... you don't want the Civil War movie to become the Spider-Man movie. That's the problem. And right now, I know people are much more excited to see Spider-Man than Iron Man and Captain America fight.
Yeah.
So I think Marvel will also want to tread lightly in terms of how much they involve this character.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they are going to involve him. Like I don't think he'll be just a cameo, because like you said, people are going to be so psyched up, they're going to want to see him as more actually part of that film. So I think they'll do it, number one, because of that, and number two, if he's a more integral part of the story, they've killed Batman vs Superman.
Yeah. But I mean,
because that movie already going up against Iron Man versus Captain America, if you throw Spider-Man in there as well, that Dawn of Justice is in some serious trouble. So I think they will do it. But the thing is, because in the comics, I'm sure you know, but in the comics, his involvement was more to do with the secret identity aspect of the Superhero Registration Act, which in all probability is not going to factor into the movie, since in the movie universe, everyone already knows everyone's identity.
Exactly.
So maybe I'm thinking, maybe they'll bring Spider-Man in as the guy who's the sort of neutral guy, sort of representing the audience who's not sure which side to pick until it all plays out at the end.
Yeah.
So like, if you bring him in as that way, as he's the vehicle through which the audience can even-handedly view both sides of the argument, then I think that could be a work of genius, if they do it right. But like you said, they'd need to tread very carefully.
Yeah, I mean, like you were just saying, you know, the fact that most of them already have their identities revealed in the universe.
Yeah, that's the first thing that Iron Man ever did.
That's the first thing that will probably change the story. That I think that even in concept, that will change the whole premise and the whole direction of the movie. But also at the same time, you know, in the comic, spoilers if anyone hasn't read it, Spider-Man flat out reveals his secret identity to the world. And this endangers his family, this endangers a whole bunch of people. And this was the whole thing that compelled the massive retcon, you know, when he made a deal with the devil and he got Aunt May back, he broke up with Mary Jane, their marriage was taken away, and he basically went back to being a teenager. It was quite a shocker, and I don't know, I doubt it was planned, it may well have been, but it's kind of an end game, you know, him revealing his identity. And if you're they're clearly trying to set up a franchise here and a series of Spider-Man movies. I just don't think they would be able to carry that if everyone knows Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Civil War in the comics, it was a really compelling story, but at the same time, the way the end result was very depressing, and Marvel felt the need to change that, and they felt the need to retcon themselves. And I mean, it sounded like they were trying to have their cake and eat it too by having a great story and then getting rid of all the repercussions by going back to the way it was before. That's not exactly an ideal way to do it, and the movie is clearly not going to retcon anything. But they're clearly going to have to change some stuff, and I can't imagine it playing out exactly as the comic did, as so many fans seem to think it will.
You know, interesting is, just side point, the other day I was watching Winter Soldier again, and like, because you know how the whole argument of Civil War... and the whole
Good movie.
It was a great movie, but the whole argument of Civil War is like finding the balance between like freedom and security. And it's like, you know, do you want to have more freedom if it means you're going to be less secure, or do you want to have more secure and be less freedom? And Hydra, there's a line in that when the computer guy, what's his name, Dr. Oss?
Dr. Oh god, the fans are going to kill me. I know what he's called.
Whatever his name was. Dr. Osterman.
Dr. Computer.
But when he's explaining the whole Hydra thing, he actually does have a line where he says the people are now ready to surrender their freedom in exchange for their security. And that's what he said to Captain America. So I think Iron Man in Civil War is going to come along and say, like, pretty much the same thing. And Captain America will be like, I heard that line before! It came from Hydra! You know? So that's definitely going to play, and there's no way that line could be an accident. So
Artem Zola, that's his name.
That's it, Zola, Thank you, Google.
But yeah, so it would be very interesting to see how it plays out.
We're still waiting for like all the little details of this whole deal between Sony and Marvel to develop, but there's some pretty disturbing rumours. I was speaking with some of my subscribers in the comments. It's got me really worried that apparently, right, we're already worried about them having final seal of approval on Marvel movies, but apparently Sony is also going to maintain its own universe, its own Spider-Man universe, separate to the Marvel stuff. Like, they're still going to go ahead with Sinister Six. They might even do an Amazing Spider-Man 3, in which case we might have like a Quicksilver type situation where you got two Spider-Man running around. I pray to the movie gods that that is not the case. Because that
sounds like complete bullshit to me.
I know. I really hope they don't do that. I mean, surely that can't be true.
I don't know if we're allowed to swear on here.
It's alright, I'll bleep it out. But surely that can't be true, because like, why would Marvel agree to a deal like that? You know, why would they buy the rights to Spider-Man if there's already going to be a rival Spider-Man?
It wouldn't even make sense for Sony, because it would confuse the heck out of people. I think it's a really stupid rumour. And also, Andrew Garfield is gone. They're not getting him back.
Yeah, oh man.
If they can't get him back, there's
really
no need to keep going.
Yeah. Like, if he was still around and they were making their own universe, still have Andrew Garfield. But if he's not even there, and we got a new Spider-Man at Marvel and a new Spider-Man Sony, oh, that's a disaster.
But he's the only thing people are still like asking for. He's the only thing that people openly said, you know, he's the good part of the Amazing series. I disagree, but a lot of people think that. And if they can't even get Garfield back, they're not really going to have any supporters for this, like, same Amazing but different actor Spider-Man. It would just be way too... I think it's preposterous.
Yeah, it'd be cinematic suicide, because why would anybody... why would anybody even watch it? You know,
Exactly.
if you know you've got Spider-Man in Marvel movies, why would you even care what Sony is doing? You wouldn't even bother to see it.
Nope. Nope, I don't like it.
All right, Sam, final question. When Spider-Man does go over to the MCU, how do you reckon he'll interact with all the different people?
Oh, Lord.
Do you reckon he'll get along with Iron Man, or he'll hate Iron Man? They could become science bros and kind of have a snark off in a fun way, or they could end up hating each other because they're both...
I reckon he would admire Tony Stark and be so naive that he doesn't quite think about all the serious stuff that he's done in the past, like with the weapons and stuff. But I reckon he would admire Tony Stark and be a bit of a fanboy, because Peter Parker's a bit of a fanboy sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense, because like, why wouldn't he look up to Tony Stark? Especially in the movie continuity, he's a scientist, superhero, blah blah blah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I also reckon that could factor into Civil War. You know, if Iron Man's talking to Spider-Man, Spider-Man is probably a fanboy admirer of both of them, and Tony Stark in particular. He's got the science connection, and Captain America, he's got the moral, you know, patriotism aspects, and I think that would be really interesting to see how they contrast each other.
Yeah.
But in terms of Iron Man, I can really see like him like just kissing the guy's ass 24/7.
Yeah, that could actually that could work really well, because apparently, well, at least my bet is Age of Ultron is going to end with Hulk being shot into space and Thor being trapped in some, you know, weird limbo world in his Viking reality or wherever he lives. Because going into Civil War, you got to get rid of Hulk and you got to get rid of Thor, because if the two of them join the one side, it's not even a contest, you know?
Yeah.
And like, Thor probably wouldn't get involved because he's not from Earth. He's like, this has got nothing to do with me. So whichever side Hulk would join would win. So you got to get rid of Hulk. So yeah, he could be like his new, because if Bruce Banner's not there, Spider-Man could come in as like the new science bro.
Yeah.
Learning and then slowly turn over to Captain America's side, kind of like he does in the comics, because he starts on Iron Man's and goes over to Captain America.
Yeah, I would really hope that they don't do Planet Hulk, just because I think after the character development that Bruce Banner went through in the Avengers, I just don't think it would work. I think it would take place too late in the sort of progression of the character. But I mean, like you said, you've got to get rid of them some way, otherwise there's no contest.
You reckon? You don't reckon it'll work for him?
I just think because the whole motivation for sending Hulk into space is the fact that you know, he's an unstoppable monster and they can't control him. But the whole point of the Avengers was to settle the, you know, repetition of constantly seeing this guy monster out. We'd seen it already. It had been done. It was cool while it lasted. But, you know, I don't know about other people. I was waiting for the superhero to come out. And basically when he says, "I'm always angry," it's him having, you know, come to terms with it's him coming to terms with the Hulk. He embraces it. He knows that it's a part of him, and you know, I just think that's a kind of character arc you can't really go back on, because the second you then turn around and say, "No, wait, it turns out he is actually really, you know, monsterish and we need to get rid of him," that's backtracking. You know,
but I don't know if it's backtracking though, because like his whole character is kind of that it's his endless struggle he has with his rage, isn't it?
Sure, but at the same time, I just think we've seen it already, and I just think
that's true.
I'm not saying you can't still give him compelling problems to deal with, but I think there's more to just, I get angry and I hurt people. It's a bit mopey, and they even explored it in the Avengers in like the first half, and granted it was necessary there. I just think we've seen it before.
Yeah, that's true. Although the rumor I heard is that he'll be the way he'll be shot into space is like they can't defeat Ultron, is too powerful, so their only way is to get rid of him by shooting him into space. But Hulk is the only one who can so they're going to shoot him off in a rocket, but Hulk is the only one who can restrain him long enough inside the rocket for them to shoot him. So it's sort of like Hulk sacrifices himself in order to get rid of this threat.
Yeah, I mean,
which is different from him being thrown out because he can't be controlled.
Exactly. If they get him into space in a way that is, you know, like, if in a different way from we need to get rid of this monster, then go for it by all means.
But
because then he's actually being a hero.
But having said that, Hulkbuster fight.
Having said that, Hulkbuster
so he does freak out.
there is a lot of theories going around that he's influenced by something. I was a little annoyed to see that they're doing the Hulkbuster thing when I saw the trailer, but we don't know how he's affected. You know, some people are implying that Scarlet Witch does something to him.
Well, I think at the end of Civil War, when you see what's his name, Baron von Strucker, he has Loki's scepter, which was a mind control thing.
Exactly.
So I reckon Ultron gets that and channels the mind control into Hulk, and is like sort of making him fight Iron Man.
Well, that would make sense. That's what they did in the first movie. You know, Loki wasn't quite controlling the Hulk, right. But he was influencing everyone in the room and making them angrier, and that's why, you know, I think what the movie was saying was that Bruce Banner managed to channel the Hulk and control it long before they found him in the Avengers, but Loki's scepter, you know, influencing everyone and getting them all really ticked off with each other just made him Hulk out in the negative way. So, you know, they could easily do it again, but yeah, I reckon there will be some kind of thing that influences the Hulk to start fighting Iron Man.
Yeah, because like he's in that scene when he is fighting, you see he's got like red eyes. Yeah. So, and he didn't get red eyes before when he hulked out. So
no,
maybe something's messing with his brain, and that's why. Yeah, he doesn't look healthy.
No, surprisingly for the Hulk.
Hawkeye, when he was under the mind control, he had like bags under his eyes, and he didn't look good, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, he was wearing contacts and stuff. So
yeah. So it's probably a similar thing with Hulk. That's probably why he looks bad. It might be the mind gem. Well, thanks so much, Sam, for being on.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
So if you want to check out Sam's channel, you can click right here to check out his channel. He does a lot of movie reviews, and probably some of the best movie reviews I've seen, because it is an art. I've said this to you before, Sam. It is an art doing movie reviews, because you have to get your thoughts together really quickly and articulate them and put them into a video like that night, having seen the movie, and that's something I really struggle with, because I mull over stuff for ages. So it is an art actually reviewing movies like that. So the last one you did was Kingsman: The Secret Service, which everyone should see if you haven't. So you can click on that right here.
Thank you.
And until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.